I don't know how hot it is, but this is melting in my face. Does it tell the temperature on the car?
27 degrees.
Holy shit, feels like more than that. Doesn't
She's
it?
not strapped in yet.
Okay, so strap her in.
Yeah, just I didn't want you to start driving away.
Oh,
That's
okay,
fine.
okay, that's fair. Time.
He's telling you these things
At some
that
point
I
in the
know
conversation,
what
you
I
decide
need
to ask
do.
this person, so
Taking the shoes off.
what are you
Holy moly.
Well,
where do
then
you
you can
land
stop
on the whole
talking then.
political spectrum?
30
As the
seconds.
person replies with, well, actually,
The route guidance will start now.
this is the solution to all that. Now, being people living in 20%, you've seen history play out the way that it
Wait,
has.
so then I didn't know.
No matter what you think about communism, we would instantly have a lot of
Listening to
thoughts about this
podcasts?
person, and probably a few questions we want to ask.
Yeah.
It's because the word communism carries with it baggage is not.
You ready? In her bag, like inside her little backpack.
Turn right onto Old Street and then turn
It's
left.
open here at the back.
Turn left onto Nicola Avenue.
Remember, at this point in the timeline of discussion about that,
Well, what am I working on this?
major conversations
It's open
trying
now.
to solve the same general problems that existed at the time. One was democracy, one was communism, and the general problem they were both trying to solve.
I guess you can't
How do
mention
we
the
ensure
bands in the back.
No, I guess not. I don't know.
Continue on current road for more than 50 kilometers.
Do you want to?
This
Come on,
has been
Slurpee.
a serious problem in the past. Democracies of the past have produced this situation time and time again. Which was
Anyone want
Get
anything?
me, just get water for me.
democracy that would preserve the true
Anyone want anything?
No, thank you.
It's a government by the many, not a handful of people. Well, communism was very similar in terms of what
Do you have hand sanitizer, Mom?
like we talked about when we did the
Can I have
series.
hand sanitizer, please?
Hey?
Hand sanitizer, please? Hand sanitizer. Do you have hand sanitizer?
Oh, hands. Oh, yeah. It's sanitizer.
Prophesize
Yeah.
their civil military
I did hand and then I thought, well,
They didn't have
and then
soap
everything.
in them.
yeah, I know. Yeah, enough.
Thank you.
Ooh. What's that?
What are you looking for?
The gum. There it is.
There. Thank you. Oh, it's on there. Oh, it's on here.
Thank you. Want some gum, love?
No.
stuck in your butt.
No, it was in there, and I was like, what the?
Maybe they were tight or something.
No, I guess when Porath put in the.
Oh.
Fuck off! Come on!
What?
It's being annoying.
What is?
My phone. Alright, there we go.
But this communist revolution just wasn't happening in the West in almost every case. So what exactly was going on? Neo-Marxist thinkers went back to the drawing board. Why does it make any sense at all that people living in these abject conditions, working jobs that were in many cases completely brutal, why would those people stand? Why didn't Marx's prophecy come true?
This person phoned me. I'm gonna phone him and see who it is.
You gotta pick something.
Yeah, I know.
You don't pay for that, eh?
I may do, but I don't.
Hey?
I may, but I don't.
Probably spam.
Was it control over a population of people extends far beyond the halls of Congress or the ballot box. Political control is almost always dictated by cultural control. This is why the Italian philosopher Antonio Gramsci spends a considerable amount of his work exploring the concept of political control, and more specifically, the very important question: when there is a dominant social group or a dominant class within a society, how exactly does that group ascend to power? And beyond that, how do they maintain that power once they've gotten it? Especially when the social order that they grow up with that position of power is oftentimes completely at odds with the well-being of the average
Maybe
person.
she had them crimped.
The fact
What
is
does that mean?
that
They
sometimes
cut their ears because it's desirable.
pass policy that
Oh,
is
so they won't curl up like
the population. Sometimes they support policy that really only benefits them or friends of theirs that are fellow members of a dominant social class. Gramsci wants to find out, why is it that
Everything's new here.
are sometimes
New
capable
town.
of getting massive support from the people?
Trying to build up a
Policies
new
that are
town.
actually hurting the average citizen more than helping them. How is it possible that the proletariat can feel so comfortable participating in a system that keeps them in chains in the eyes of the communist system? Gramsci begins his explanation by evoking and repurposing a word that had been thrown around all throughout human history. It was a word we thought in recent years was starting to take on an entirely new meaning. The thing that was responsible for allowing a particular social class to ascend to power and then maintain that privileged status was what he called cultural hegemony. Now, this concept of hegemony is going to end up being massively important in the political conversation of the 21st century. By the end of this arc on the show, we're going to look at it from a lot of different perspectives. Maybe the best place to start is to talk about the origins of it. The word hegemony originates in ancient Greece. The root of the word comes from the Greek word to lead. Some translators think it's closer to the Greek word for to rule. But either way, during antiquity there were things
I don't know.
called hegemons. Now, in the context of ancient Greece, a hegemon
I've never
is
seen
typically a
anything
state
that implies I can control the body. You're
You're
sure it's open?
That the weaker state can comply with certain demands from the hegemon. Annex, dominated militarily, part of the ground. Take your pick.
There you go.
In other
Yeah.
words, the term hegemony implies describe the threat of physical dominance over a population of people. And this was the case all throughout human history. But Gramsci's going to say that in our modern world, the definition
If it's
of the word
defrosting, then...
happens to evolve with political reality.
Well, I guess because last time I had it defrosting.
We are no longer living in a world
Remember because it was
where
raining?
political control is exercised by military dominance over a population of people. Since the advent of mass media, people in positions of power have realized that a much more effective way to control populations is by manipulating the cultural parameters that citizens have to navigate. The general idea is this: to be a human being living a life in our modern world at all, you always have to be living that life immersed within a particular culture. But what is a culture other than an elaborate collection of norms, structures, mores, taboos, rituals, values? These things are not exactly abstract concepts. They are acute. They are visible. This is the cultural custom of a handshake to pay deference to somebody else. This is not talking with your mouth full. This is the sum total of every ritual and practices that all come together to create a cohesive society. But what Gramsci's going to ask is, who exactly created all these norms and taboos that we abide by? We can easily look to different cultures around the world presently, and all throughout human history for that matter, to see if the culture can function and flourish when things are completely different. The norms and taboos of a culture can be completely alien from the modern world, and yet we'd still somehow manage to stay together. So it makes Gramsci wonder, to what extent is the current set of norms and taboos serving to reinforce itself? To what extent are these citizens seeing the current set of norms and taboos not as a temporary extension of culture, but as just the way the world is? Once again, this is another example of this classic debate we talked about last time that's going to become increasingly relevant. How much of the reality of the world can be explained by religion, and how much of the world can be explained by culture? This is extremely important because to Gramsci, if you can control the narrative, then you can convince the average citizen that the current set of cultural norms is just the way the world is. Then there's not going to be much complaining. There's not going to be much in the way of seeking justice and trying to change things. This is similar to a point we discussed from Simone de Beauvoir in The Ethics of Ambiguity. We don't get mad at hurricanes. When a hurricane comes along, it devastates multiple cities. People die, homes are destroyed, billions of dollars in damages, thousands of families displaced, and every one of those cases a tragedy in its own right. But as human beings, what do? We accept it. Why? Because there's no sense in getting mad at a hurricane. There's no human intent or will behind a giant storm that we can be held morally culpable. So we chalk it up as an unfortunate series of events. Hurricanes are a part of nature. There's nothing we can really do to stop it. Sometimes the world is going to be at large, and I just got to deal with that the best way I can and try to accept it. To Gramsci, this is the old switcheroo that's going on culturally here. Dominant social classes have the ability to dictate cultural norms. These cultural norms oftentimes serve to reinforce themselves, and people born into these cultures oftentimes view the normalized state of the world around them as nature rather than culture. Gramsci thinks this is a cultural story that's being told. So often citizens see it as just the way the world is and something they need to learn and accept. To Gramsci, this is why Marx's prophecy hasn't come true. This is why the proletariat continues to live in chains, because they've come to accept those chains as the natural state of the world that they need to come to terms with. Cultural norms become, to the average person, what Gramsci calls the, quote, common sense that they use to make sense of their place in the world. When the common sense of your world serves to legitimize the dominance of a particular class of people and tells you that anything you don't like about your socioeconomic situation, well, that's just the natural order of things, then your very existence becomes reinforcing of cultural hegemony. You are reinforcing the political status quo simply by participating in the culture that you happen to be born into. This is why people that would otherwise never stand for getting pushed around can find themselves getting worked into the ground in a fascinating Gramsci, only to accept their place in the world as a necessary part of how the world works. Parts of my life may be hard, yes. But you know what? That's life. Life is hard sometimes. That's the sort of dogma.
Hello?
Hello, this is E. CRG National Research calling on behalf of the Canadian Contact Communications with a quick.
But look, it's not like Gramsci's saying that life should never be hard. The more accurate question would probably be, how hard does life need to be for a person? And how many hard aspects of life have been made into a normalized part of our modern world that we just accept that disproportionately serve to benefit a dominant group within society? Being a neo-Marxist, you can no doubt guess what his first and most commonly used target is. Capitalism. So, to Gramsci, even people that are struggling within the capitalist system have oftentimes lived their entire lives immersed in a culture that promotes the merits of capitalism. This, in turn, creates a sort of economic Stockholm syndrome, where despite the fact they're struggling, the citizens identify themselves and their place in the world in relation to capitalist ideology. When the entire way that you view the world has been given to you by a culture that benefits from maintaining capitalism, Gramsci would say, don't be surprised if that education produces a few blind spots. These blind spots are the point, okay? Cultural hegemony in many ways is accomplished by getting consent from the population to keep things the way that they are, by making sure people are blind to other options at their disposal. Keep in mind as we continue talking about cultural hegemony, this isn't always accomplished by an organized group of people that are actively trying to control things. Cultural hegemony can exist, and people can be a part of perpetuating that status quo just simply by acting out of their own self-interest. See, because their self-interest is always considered in relation to how the current system can help them, they unintentionally end up supporting things staying the same. What Gramsci's getting at is that for any single person or any social institution, to appeal to groups that are in positions of power for the sake of your own self-interest, you must, in some capacity there, go along with the way that things are currently structured. So for example, if you're a politician or a social commentator who wants to make the world a better place, the only way you are ever going to be able to get your message across is by participating in the existing culture and using the tools at your disposal. This is an ideal situation for cultural hegemony, and one of the goals of its final stages to Gramsci, to make the values of a particular culture seem so a part of nature and so in line with, quote, common sense, that the members of that culture don't even question them. To get people completely entrenched in this world where they mistake the reality of their culture for the reality of the universe. To think the reason things are staying the way that they are is because people are weighing all the options, they're thinking about it for a while, and then they're making the best choice, not merely complying with the demands of a cultural hegemon that has control over them. That said, just like the militaristic hegemon of ancient Greece, the goal of cultural hegemony is to stay in power. Now, over time, dominant social groups have realized that the most efficient way of doing this is by controlling people's systems of values. Because by and large, people acquire their systems of values by listening to and studying voices within a culture that he thinks are massively important: public intellectuals. Gramsci makes an important distinction here between two very different types of public intellectuals. There are ruling intellectuals and organic intellectuals. Now, the ruling intellectuals are going to be these sort of foot soldiers for the dominant set of cultural norms that are currently in place. These are the people whose commentary on the world is going to reinforce the status quo. Keep in mind, again, this is in no way saying that these are bad people necessarily. Most of them may not even realize what they're doing. But Gramsci nonetheless wants to shine a light on the insular and oftentimes self-reinforcing world that many of these intellectuals come from. So often, it's from academia. So often these people are completely out of touch when it comes to what life is even like for most people in culture. Think about the common archetype of a philosopher throughout history. A philosopher decides they're going to resign themselves from public life, lock themselves away in a tower, and just think about stuff really, really hard. That's the path for creating good philosophy. The last thing you'd ever want to do as a philosopher is have the basic thoughts of a normal, everyday person corrupting your unparalleled genius, right? Gramsci thinks this is completely ridiculous. Not only is this elitist and making tons of value judgments about how certain human experiences in the world are inherently better and can even be corrupted by other people's experiences in the world, but aside from all that, Gramsci thinks this approach actually prevents you from ever being able to participate in discussions about politics at all. Because political discussions always begin from the starting point of self-awareness and self-reflection, while considering how that self relates to all the other people around you. And how could any anybody locking themselves away in a closet thinking about stuff ever hope to contribute to that conversation. But nonetheless, these ruling intellectuals oftentimes dominate the ideas that are available to citizens of the society. So often these intellectuals are the ones that write the articles, they're the ones published in journals, they conduct the studies, they write the textbooks. So often these intellectuals control the education of the next generation of citizens, when so much of their prominence as an intellectual was only given to them simply because their ideas corresponded with the existing social order. Here's what Gramsci's saying. Cultural hegemony is established by taking control of three things: the intellectuals of a society, the education within a society, and the philosophy that drives people to political action. So in other words, if you're someone that came up through the education system of an advanced capitalist society, Gramsci would say, don't be surprised if there are some pretty glaring holes in your understanding of capitalism. Because, just statistically, most pieces of information you've ever had access to have been written by people that reach that level of social influence by participating in a capitalist system that benefits them. Your high school or university wasn't taught by unbiased monks on the top of a mountain. That most likely, once again, just statistically, you have come up in a world where you are far more likely to hear about the merits of capitalism and all the good that it's doing for people. When conversations about the downsides of capitalism come up, you're far more likely to hear them glossed over by other people. You're less likely to have someone call you out for glossing over them. And the conversation's likely to go in the direction of how the good of capitalism drastically outweighs the bad. When you hear people talking about socialism, when coming up in an advanced capitalist culture, you're far more likely to run into conversations about the horrors of socialism, how it's failed everywhere it's been tried, and if anyone brings up something good that socialism seems to have produced, it's written off as broken clocks right twice a day sort of thing. Now here's the really interesting part. This view of economics and how it plays out in the world may be absolutely true. Capitalism could just be a better economic system than socialism. But how would you ever know for sure? Because if you're an intellectually honest person, you'd at least for a second have to consider that maybe your entire understanding of capitalism and socialism has been given to you by a handful of intellectuals you've entrusted your worldview to, that are intellectuals and gain their credibility simply because their view of the way the world is corresponds with the dominant cultural narrative that keeps the status quo going. Whether maintaining that status quo is good for a particular social group that's pulling the puppet strings, or whether it's good for just keeping society stable, what if you lived your entire life learning from a lot of really smart people that are all just telling the same side of the story? Now, Gramsci would say that this is not just limited to capitalist societies, that it's entirely possible to come up in a society that unfairly promotes the merits of socialism and creates the same sort of echo chamber of ideas. Gramsci's goal was not to replace a Western world dominated by capitalist ideology with one dominated by Marxist ideology. His goal was to replace both of these narrow approaches with an ideology where the public has a general and intense level of skepticism about the status quo, no matter what the status quo looks like. The biggest mistake we can make to Gramsci is to see these ideologies as nature, or the way that things are. We should always be critical of the status quo. And the fact he's so critical of capitalism is just him following his own advice about the status quo of the world he happened to live in. To make a long story short, Gramsci thought that Marx, and so many other Marxist thinkers that came after him, were putting the cart before the horse, in a way. They were all so wrapped up in the possibility, the inevitability of a communist revolution in the West. They were so wrapped up in waiting to see capitalism destroy itself that they completely missed the fact that different methods of cultural control could fragment a population to the point that a revolution could never take place. Gramsci makes another important distinction in his work, directly to these people that were calling for revolution. That for any meaningful social change to ever take place, regardless of what it is, there needs to be two wars that are fought in one. First, a war of position, then a war of maneuver. These orthodox Marxists of his time were far too focused on the war of maneuver, which was the actual communist revolution that they wanted to bring about. But Gramsci says, before that can ever happen, you need to defeat the cultural hegemon in a war of position. Remember, a cultural hegemon will have control over three things: the intellectuals, the education, and the philosophy of a society. The goal of anyone trying to bring about any kind of social change to Gramsci should be to provide alternatives in all three of these areas. They should create a counterculture, an alternative set of cultural norms and taboos, reinforced by the intellectuals whose job it is to actively challenge the status quo. He called this other type of intellectuals organic intellectuals, and it was their job to be skeptical of the existing order of things, to provide an alternative means of education that took cues from the counterculture that was created, and to embolden the average citizen to take political action by giving them a philosophical outlook that changes the way they see themselves and how they fit into the world. This is why so many attempts at revolution have failed in the past, to Gramsci. The orthodox Marxists that tried to organize it didn't understand the common sense of the workers that needed to carry out the revolution. These workers saw themselves and their place in the world solely in terms of how they relate to capitalist ideology. The only way to shift their perspective enough to see the other side would be to fundamentally change the way they look at the world philosophically. See, an extremely important term in the work of Karl Marx was used to describe the way he saw things was historical materialism. Gramsci was a neo-Marxist. When it came to these orthodox Marxists that we're talking about, he distanced himself considerably from them. And the big reason why was because he thought they were paying way too much attention to the materialism part of historical materialism, and not nearly enough attention to the historical part. Gramsci may have supported communism, and communism may have played out in a particular way all throughout the 20th century. But Gramsci hated Stalin. He would have hated Mao. He would have hated Pol Pot. He saw people like these as opportunistic dictators that took what could otherwise have been a revolutionary political philosophy, and they used it to create dictatorships where the population was forced to deify and worship the state. When to Gramsci, a much more accurate reading of the work of Marx would have produced the true essence of his work, the spirit of revolution among people. The spirit of revolution among common people, united under the desire to never again allow a handful of people to dominate and control the population. To those living at the time of Gramsci, communism and democracy seem to be two extremely different approaches to trying to solve the same general problem. See, as we already know from earlier episodes, the feeling around this time in the world of philosophy is an intense skepticism towards reason. The Enlightenment gave us the hope that science was the answer. Science, when given enough time to develop, was capable of giving us answers to problems that throughout history have seemed completely unsolvable. When applied to the realm of political philosophy, for over 100 years, it seemed totally plausible that something like science, something as unbiased and without an agenda as science, could eventually study the way that people are, study their brains, study the way people work together within a society. And it didn't seem crazy to think that science could eventually give us answers to some of these questions in political philosophy that seemed so difficult to answer. But along came Frederick Nietzsche, philosophizing.
He'll be alright.
Because at the end of the 19th century, he asked the
Take a
question,
bit of chewy on it.
what if the very act
Everything.
of conducting science at all carries with it cultural values that narrow and distort its findings? We know there are many different ways of conducting science depending on the specific field you're in. We know that scientific revolutions have occurred, where there have been wholesale transformations in the methods and assumptions that science is conducted through. What if these limitations and the unavoidable narrow scope that categorizing the universe must be viewed through is missing out on something crucial about what it is to be a human being? What if science, useful as it is, was never the savior that everyone thought it was? More on that next episode. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next time.
Warning, this is just a teaser. The full episode is behind a dystopian neoliberal paywall, available at patreon.com/seriously-wrong. But keep listening, because this is a great teaser. We had Brett from Revolutionary Left Radio on to brainstorm about revolutions. He did sketches with us. It was a blast. Here's some good parts from the episode.
In the utopian justice system, the people are represented by two separate but equally important groups. The People's Defense Forces, who investigate crime, and the People's District Attorneys, who represent the transcendent, immortal idea of justice. These are their stories.
All rise. Brett O'Shea, approach the stand.
Hello. Now, it's no secret to the courtroom that you've been an influential member of the utopian cadre that's helped build the libertarian, socialist, democratic, confederalist, library socialism revolution. It brings the People's Tribunal no joy to try you for your crimes.
Oh God, what?
You are accused of not
my system. You guys gave me free Mountain Dew, but that's not really conducive to spitting. In any case, I defend the Soviet Union, but go on.
You didn't spit, Mr. O'Shea.
Again, I'm parched. I still won't spit. I'm just saying I don't have it to spit also.
Bailiff, bring the defendant some water. Give him the opportunity to not spit.
Okay, this is a huge glass of water, but I will drink it in front of the court.
Additionally, Mr. O'Shea, you are accused of denying the existence of authoritarianism.
I mean, I don't think necessarily that authoritarianism is a helpful theoretic device by which to understand past proletarian movements, if that's your question.
When you were doing your monthly check-in for your ideological position, you failed to check off the box which asserts that you are against stifling bureaucracy.
My pen actually just genuinely ran out of ink. I didn't mean to not check that box. I mean, even as a Marxist-Leninist, I would have checked that box. It was a pen issue.
A likely story.
It's true.
I think the court decides what's true. Next to the stand, I want to call a former comrade and colleague of yours, Aaron Moritz, please.
Sack of shit.
First, I just want to say that I do recognize all the hard work Brett put into the revolution, but we always knew we'd have to deal with these sectarian struggles at some point. Yes, I've seen him not spit many times. Order. I'm not doing this because it's something that I want to do. I like Brett. I always liked Brett. He was my best friend.
I wouldn't say that.
There's a higher calling than just sticking up for your friends. There's something called virtue, and I don't want to live in a society where people are afraid to speak their mind openly. I don't want to live in a society where, friends are turning on one another and forming show trials, revolutionary tribunals. I don't want to live in a world that's a bureaucratic nightmare. Nobody who cares about people wants that, and that is why we all always spit when anyone says the word Soviet Union.
How do you feel about the Soviet Union now that you're have enough water in your mouth?
I am hydrated, but I still think that the Soviet Union, given its flaws and its excesses and errors, was still ultimately an unprecedented show of proletarian power, and as such, I just won't spit when I hear the name.
Well, it's clear, Mr. O'Shea, that you're an unrepentant authoritarian who is in favor of stifling bureaucracy. I don't think anyone here can deny that.
I didn't know that.
Before you're inevitably found guilty of these particularly heinous crimes, we want to be fair to you and give you the opportunity to self-crit to reduce your sentence.
Okay, the one thing that I am very critical about is Aaron. I thought that we were close comrades. We fought side by side in the Great War. We've killed numerous fascists together. I invited him into my bedroom, thinking that we'd all have a good time together. And this is how it's repaid to me. So yeah, I'm going to be critical of my previous friendship choices, but beyond that, I have nothing to apologize for.
Wow.
Shut the fuck up, Aaron.
I think that Aaron's going to be spending a lot of time with your wife where you're going.
As a judge, my job is often really difficult, but fortunately this one's really easy. He's guilty and will be sentenced to a minimum of 10 years in the luxury rehabilitation gulag with an option to re-up if he's unrepentant.
Goddamn libertarian authoritarian.
3 months later, Brett O'Shea is writing a letter to his wife from prison.
Everything on my end as well. I could not be treated better than my captor. I get 3 meals a day, all of them vegan, extremely healthy. I have exercise routines and self-actualization therapy. I'm starting to understand myself on a whole new level. In any case, I'm still pissed about being locked up. I was and still remain correct to this very day. I wish these libertarian authoritarians would understand. And honestly, what's up with the spitting? I've never been a fan of spitting in the first place. I've always sort of found it off-putting and gross. Yes, it is libertarian and collectivist spit, but at the end of the day, it's still spit. I just don't like it. I've never liked it. Send Aaron and the kids my best regards. Hopefully I'll see you all very soon. I have to get back to my Casper mattress, HD TV, and myself. Talk to you later.
Mr. O'Shea, it's time for your mandatory daily second massage at 11:30
I
a.m.
already had a massage today. I had 3 massages yesterday. I'm so loose I could snap a tiger's neck in half. I don't want to go have another massage session.
Sorry, Mr. O'Shea, we want to make sure that our prisoners' muscles are supple and relaxed so they can come to correct conclusions.
Come feel me. Feel how supple I am.
Alright, let's have a gander here. I don't know. You feel a little tense. Feels like you've still got a little bit of stress deep
Something in
down.
your pocket? Ouch.
I'm not going to ask you again. It's time for the mandatory massage. But if you're good, at the end of the massage, there will be cheesecake. It's one of the guards' birthday.
This is kind of a jokey idea, but it struck me, like, you know how the social democratic footholds or social democratic reforms, it'll be criticized from the left sometimes as placating the proletariat and making the real uprooting of capitalist society less likely, because there needs to be that sort of tension. The contradictions of capitalism need to be made more forceful, and all of this stuff is kind of propping up capitalism by throwing the proletariat scraps and keeping them placated.
So I got healthcare, so I don't want revolution.
And if we have this idea that people can be placated by making sure they have healthcare, enough food, just like giving them a decent life, maybe instead of liquidating the bourgeoisie, we can just placate them with nice things during the revolution.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they won't want to fight back. What do you think?
Well, so I know that's partially tongue-in-cheek, but you're partially getting at, you know, what I think makes you guys so wonderful, and I think I share it, is like empathy, and we're not violent people. Like, never in my life or your guys' life are we going out shoulder bumping people in the street or trying to fist fight motherfuckers or kill our enemies. You know, we don't like violence. It's not something that we particularly excited to take part in. And as far as it can be mitigated and pushed to the side, we should absolutely take every single step we can. And again, the Marxist idea that the capitalist, you can't just chalk it up to being bad people, right? That's sort of liberal idealism, where you're saying, you know, it's the individual's fault for these broader structures at play that are sort of buffeting. They're just operating within a system as best they can. Some are evil assholes, and some are just people trying to do their best for their family in whatever context they're given. We should absolutely take as many steps as possible to address that and realize that, and give people an opportunity to come over and see how things could be different. In fact, in Cuba, as they were doing their revolution, all this land and like all these resources were owned by the West, because the Batista regime was a U.S. puppet dictatorship that funneled wealth northward to the U.S. And so what Fidel and Che were trying to do is like, hey, America, we'll actually pay above market value for this land, right? We have to do it in bonds because our treasury was ransacked after Batista and his regime fled. They emptied the treasury. We don't have any money on hand right now, but we will absolutely, through a bond program, pay for this land back. That was way restrained. That was so generous of the Cuban people. They did not have to do this. This is a revolution. Take the land and point a gun in their face and say fuck off, but no. They were still trying to be conciliatory. And in fact, Fidel says, I wasn't a Marxist-Leninist at first, right? I just wanted a better world for Cuba. But once I came up against the realities of capitalism, once I saw just how obstinate and disgusting U.S. imperialism and capitalism were, I realized that I had to be pushed in this direction. They said no to those offers. They said, fuck no. We're not giving you any inch of ground. We're not working with you whatsoever. We're going to choke your economy. We're going to destroy your people. And the first chance we get, we're going to kill you, Fidel. We're going to invade your country, and we're going to replant a U.S. puppet dictator. In that context, what in the fuck could Fidel possibly do? They were forced into this position to be like, okay, assholes, fuck you, and let's go. And, you know, so I think that gestures toward this strain in Marxist history where there has been an attempt to be conciliatory, even way more generous and forgiving than they should have been, and still it was met with the most disgusting and repulsive obstinance on the part of U.S. imperialists and capitalists. And so we do ourselves a disservice if we paint too rosy of a picture about how this is going to go, but we also do ourselves a disservice if we fetishize violence and say we must slaughter every person who's ever been a landlord or a capitalist and not ever give them a chance to come over to our side, engage with our ideas, and maybe even be won over.
Yeah, and just picking up on Aaron's idea about pacifying the bourgeoisie, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get behind liquidating Group X as like a phrase. I find it deeply disturbing, and rightfully so, because it's a description of one of the most horrifying things possible. It's mass murder. But I could maybe be convinced of like the need for, in certain circumstances, to like restrain and imprison and pacify them, as as Aaron suggests. Like I'm sort of open to that, and I don't want to be completely close-minded, but I just feel like we need to really evaluate all of our options. And we're talking about the one true global revolution that brings about 10,000 years of world peace and abolishes patriarchy, racism, class relations, the idea of hierarchy. It creates a library socialism based on the principle of usufruct to make sure that everyone gets their irreducible minimum check. And I can imagine sort of like the critique is like, maybe you're not thinking about this seriously enough, or you're not seeing the severity of this situation. But I don't agree. I think that a really scientific perspective on it would say, how many options do we have open? What is our ethical priorities? How do we live according to those ethical priorities? And how do we live according to those ethical priorities while creating the outcome that we want? And have we exhausted every single option before we resort to this kind of thing? That's really, really important to me in the way that I think about this stuff. And I guess that's like sort of one of the big questions is like the means and ends question. It's like, do the means justify the ends? What is acceptable to do in the process of securing the bag on behalf of the global proletariat? And I find myself absolutely convinced that there needs to be a unity between means and ends, and that the risks of not doing that are too great.
So yeah, the means and ends question I think is an absolutely important one. If we're building our movement in a way that replicates the brutality, the inequality, the patriarchy, the chauvinism of our broader society, we're not doing ourselves or our movement or anybody else any favors. And I think this is taken very seriously by pretty much everybody who's active on the left. If you're an organizer, whether you're an anarchist or Marxist-Leninist or democratic socialist, and I've been in circles and organizations with all three numerous times, got along very well. Everybody's very concerned about this, right? The way that our organizations are held. Like here at Nebraska Left Coalition, maybe the white males don't talk first, right? We put the floor open, the women talk first, the people of color give their perspectives. Those sorts of prefigurative, if you will, approaches to our organizing, not only essential, but they've kind of sort of always been there, right? There's always been those tensions in our organizations and always attempts to make them better. I mean, the Black Panther Party, for example, had a huge problem with heteronormativity, machismo, and patriarchy, and within that movement in the 70s in the United States, for no less, there were movements by women members and some members like Fred Hampton pushing against that, fighting against that strain in their own organizing. So this is something that we absolutely cannot dispense with. I think the means and the ends should, as much as possible, become aligned, but I also do believe that we need to have a very sober, clear-minded, historically informed picture of what exactly a revolution means and the exact sort of situations that we're likely to be thrust into. And if we're not willing to defend our stuff, if we're not willing to protect one another by any means necessary, then I think we weaken our movement. We might not ever get to those ends. So, you know, maybe there needs to be some synthesis here as far as decrease all of this negative shit as much as we can, but on the other hand, be sober and clear-eyed about what it's going to take to actually build this better world. And it's definitely going to force us into confrontation with some people who, for my God, kill children. They don't care that thousands of people have to sleep in gutters every night. They're willing to bankrupt entire families to get cancer treatment. We're not dealing with people who are going to sit at the table with us and talk about ethics and morality. We're dealing with people that have been proven to be some of the most ruthless, depraved people, especially at the highest levels of capitalism and imperialism. Really fucked up people. But again, I want to reiterate, some level of prefigurative politics is important, but the prefigurative politics don't matter as much if we never get to the point that our prefiguration is aiming at, right? So that needs to be taken into consideration as well. But absolutely, be as ethical in your organizing as possible. Root this nasty shit out of not only our organizing but our personal lives, right? I feel like I have a responsibility to cultivate within my own personal self an ethical, moral, nurturing, loving, generous personality so that I can sort of be a representation of the sort of world that I want to have, right? You can't be a greedy asshole who wants to put everybody who disagrees with you up against the wall and build this world that's supposed to emancipate and liberate, you know, hundreds of millions, billions of people. That's at odds, and I think that contradiction needs to be paid attention to and needs to be overcome.
Well, and I gotta say that warmth is something that I love about you, Brett. You make me believe in left unity when all left unity seems to be lost.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for the chunk of the episode that's available on Facebook, YouTube, the mainstream, wherever you're listening this to. And now it is time for the totally normal part of everyone's day where they ask for money, and it isn't weird, and they just kind of feel normal about it.
Yeah, let's just put a little bit of smooth, relaxing music, and I mean, what's more normal than asking for money after doing a little dance for someone? That's fundamental.
I do it every week. It's like breathing to me, and it feels just as natural.
I can tell from your posture that you're really comfortable with this part.
It's like I take a breath in, I remind people to head to Patreon, $6 a month, get all the bonus episodes, help us keep making the show. That means so much to us. I take a breath out. It's just
You take a breath in, and like there's a Discord server, a private Facebook group. You can talk about the show, talk to other people, listen to the show, get the whole back catalog of episodes, including the Revolution episodes series that's ongoing. Breathe out. It's completely normal. I don't feel weird about it.
Another thing I don't feel weird about is making something I love and then withholding it from most of the people who want to get it. That's something that I feel normal about and enjoy.
Normal segment, normal episode. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with a non-donor only episode next week, full length. But hey, why don't you chip in $6 a month if you can? It makes a huge, huge difference to us being able to do the show at the level that we do, at the frequency we do.
Quite a lot of situations dramatized. But more broadly, societies where people have no privacy tend to be a bit scary.
It is scary because the last thing we have on Earth is our privacy. You know, it's like people have this impulse to share everything on Instagram and give away their name to a company that wants to sell them jewelry. And it's just like, truly, our secrets are the last thing we have.
Well, the last thing we had.
Right. Poppy did a full TED Talk on this, and the thing that I took away from it is, will we live in a near future where a slasher film will be edited with people's biometric data in mind?
Poppy certainly sees that on the horizon, and she has a term for technology that starts to understand us.
Empathetic technology is the idea that, you know, it's not technology that empathizes with me or technology that is trying to emulate human empathy. It's technology that makes use of my internal experience to be able to integrate that as part of its interface.
Today, it's impressive that Poppy can understand an audience's emotional journey watching Free Solo by tracking the levels of CO2 in their breath. But tomorrow, it could lead to new kinds of art and entertainment that respond to us.
Really great hip-hop producer I was talking to wants to create music that is personalized, almost like a tailored suit for individuals. So you start to think about a very dynamic integration of human experience. That experience becomes something that our technology can be aware of and optimized for. I want my technology to make the right decisions so that the experience I have with it is seamless.
Seamless. Such a seductive word they named a food delivery service after it. But a dangerous word too. Because for technology to read and respond to us in real time, it needs to make decisions about us on its own. You may remember last episode we spoke with Lisa Merritt about some of the risks of facial recognition technology. But that's not her only area of research.
Something that I was looking into really recently is our relationship with technology is completely shifting. So we're moving from a relationship with technology where we are asking it to do something, you know, it's a pure sort of input-output. And what now we're moving towards is a relationship with technology where we are trusting technology to make decisions on our behalf.
Lisa teaches at Goldsmiths in London and Cardiff University. She told us about how her students have encountered technology making its own decisions about their future prospects.
One of the things that the students are starting to do is to game the algorithms that are being used to mine through candidates' CVs. And so what they figured out is if they write in white text anywhere on their CV, Cambridge, Harvard, Oxford, they're more likely to get through to the interview process.
The students know that recruiting algorithms prioritize applications from certain schools, so they pepper their applications with words they know the algorithm will like, but written in white so the human recruiters are none the wiser. They're marketing themselves straight to the AI.
They're gaming the algorithm system, which I think is pretty genius. There's also certain things where students or candidates who are having to conduct their first interview in some companies purely online, and there's no person on the other side. You're essentially talking into your webcam, and there's algorithmic technology that is recording your voice, that's listening for intonation, that's listening for the types of words that you're saying, like if you use smart words or your language isn't perhaps at a level that they would think is appropriate for business.
But do we want computers to deny opportunities to job applicants who may be qualified but not fully polished, without human review? And the algorithms weren't only analysing the students' words.
They're also looking at your facial features, and so they can say if you were nervous or shy. And some of my students have said that if they very quickly use like hand gestures, they confuse the camera, and the camera can't see if they were nervous or shy for those particular moments.
There's something quite hopeful about these students subverting the algorithms designed to read them. It's not quite the summer of '68, Kara, but the youth have still got something.
Well, it's true that you and I both look very good in black leather and are considered cyberpunks.
That's how we met.
That's right, the cyberpunk rally. I was reading about this Kickstarter campaign called Reflecticles.
Like spectacles, but reflective.
That's right, and that's because they reflect invisible and infrared light when you look back into a camera that's watching you.
Wow.
Which is like that's like a techie middle finger. Like, I'm gonna look right back in this camera and it's just gonna like buzz light back at it.
Completely.
So, you know, there are methods obviously for resistance, But what I'm worried about is that algorithms are very smart and they will wise up and be harder to trick.
Right, and showing up for your job interview in reflective laws probably carried its own burden as well.
It is how I got this job, though.
But we should also ask ourselves why these companies are using AI to filter candidates and conduct interviews. And of course, it's really about saving money and saving resources, which brings up the big question of the series: who benefits from this new technology?
Amazon.
And Facebook and Google. When we come back, we look at the economics of giving up our data and what we get in return. There's nothing small about your business. Your impact on the community has made a huge difference. As a thank you during Small Business Month, Dell is offering up to 45% off select computers with Intel Core processors. Plus, get a free external hard drive with select PC purchases. Call 877-BY-DELL to speak with a small business technology advisor today. That's 877-BY-DELL for tech, advice, and one-on-one partnership. Sensors and AI that analyze our response to movies or decide if we're a good fit for a job may sound like the stuff of dystopian science fiction. And that's because it is. Sort of a perimeter until
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, it's interesting you mentioned Minority Report because to this day, so many years later, decades later, I'll be in some meeting in Silicon Valley and we'll be looking at some gadget and someone say, wow, this gadget's great. It's like from Minority Report. It's so cool. And I'm like, that was supposed to be cautionary. That was a description of the bad world. That was what we want to avoid. Oh, for God's sake.
That's Jaron Lanier. He's a research scientist at Microsoft, and in the 80s he coined the term virtual reality after helping invent the field. Jaron's thought a lot about what our relationships with technology mean for us, so when Steven Spielberg was making Minority Report, he called on Jaron to act as a technology consultant.
Mostly what I've taken from Minority Report is that just trying to do cautionary portrayals of technology actually backfires, because there's some way that it's a little bit like when you show the life of billionaires, people don't get angry about like, why do those people monopolize, why do they own whole islands or something. Instead they say, oh, I identify with that person, maybe I could own a whole island someday.
And despite our fascination with dystopian fiction, we also have a tendency to fantasize about ourselves as the beneficiaries, not the victims of the systems we create. And we tend to ascribe those systems their own will, even though we've made them.
Early in the history of capitalism, Adam Smith suggested that capitalism or markets were an invisible hand, a sort of a life form. And in the same way that you can interpret a market as being this living thing, just because it's a little beyond our understanding, it's a little too complicated to fully predict and fully understand, and that's actually its power. In the same way, big computational systems can be a little out of control, not entirely, but even if they're only a little bit, you can interpret that as being the new invisible hand, which we call artificial intelligence.
Invoking an external force like the invisible hand, or an algorithm that automatically reads resumes or makes parole recommendations, obscures real human decisions. We have to remember that our creations reflect us.
If you use that to abdicate your responsibility, if you use it just to cower in fear, then you're not being a good computer scientist. That is not the responsible way to do things. Just as if an economist says, well, the invisible hand says all these people should starve, that's not a responsible economist. The responsible economist fixes the problem. In a sense, I think it's very hard to be effective if you believe in some kind of magical agency in your own inventions. I think you make yourself into an idiot. And so I'm really concerned that not only economists, but computer scientists make that error all the time.
It's almost like a new form of mythology.
I've been calling it alchemy lately, but yeah, sure. It's certainly easier to say, oh, we should respect this amazing arrival of automatic translation, which is offered for free by companies like Google and Microsoft. Now, the thing is, you might say, well, this is very sad, but it always happens. People's jobs become obsolete when new technologies come along. The buggy whip goes away and the motor car comes. All right, but the problem is that every single day, those of us who help run these free services have to scrape or steal tens of millions of example phrases from all over the world from people who don't know what's being done to them. And the reason why is every single day there's new pop culture and slang and public events and memes and on and on. And so you need to constantly get new phrase examples to feed into the translation engines. So it's a weird thing. We're telling the people, you don't get a job anymore because you're not needed. Oh, by the way, you're needed. We need to deal with you. Oh, but by the way, we won't even tell you. And it's all based on this lie that we don't need people. And that lie is based on this need to pretend the AI is this freestanding thing. Whereas we could instead think of it as just the way that software can channel value between people in a new and better way.
The free availability of real-time translation opens up a world of possibilities for travelers, for language learners, for long-distance lovers. But these technologies have invisible costs, like the translators losing their jobs to a tool that was trained on their work. And this kind of unpaid labor is actually something all of us participate in every day without even realizing. Here's Lisa again.
The way that these voice-activated assistants are being trained is through huge amounts of data. A bit of an unknown secret by many people who have an Alexa is that every single time you are talking to that device, it's being recorded and being stored and going back to the cloud to train all of the other echoes around the world. So the users of echo devices are providing free labor on behalf of these massive organizations in order to train the system.
It's not the first thing we think, but after purchasing an Alexa and using it to buy stuff online, every time we interact with it, we're also helping Amazon improve and make more money. But framing our data in terms of labor helps us think about technology in new ways. And our Alexa use reminds Jaron of another science fiction movie.
The recent one that's really gotten to me is that probably the most famous cautionary tale about computers was in 2001, Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke's movie. Open the pod bay doors. And there's this computer called HAL that's this round thing that sits on the wall and just looks at you and talks to you. I'm sorry. I can't do that. And it ends up going berserk and killing people and they have to deprogram it. And the hot new gadget for the last few years has been this round thing that sits there and looks at you and you talk to it. These smart speakers and so on. And it's like, no matter how many cautions we put forward, people just fall right into it. It's astonishing to me.
Of course, Alexa is powered by artificial intelligence. It takes machine learning to understand what you say.
In 2 kilometers, take West Bank on the left.
Listening devices into our homes.
Yeah, I think that's true. I didn't grow up talking to something in my house.
It's interesting when you read those articles like deep inside North Korea. You know, the thing that journalists always write is there's a speaker in every house which projects the chairman's voice into the homes. That's always a shocking detail. And of course now we will have Alexas in our houses.
You know, I think it's interesting that Amazon was being delivered to us in the boxes on our doorstep. That was the farthest they were going to.
In 1 kilometer, take West Bank on the left.
And these are devices that are inside of our homes, that are on our countertops. We're at this place where Alexa is now a part of the family. And now we have this first generation of children growing up with Alexas and other smart devices at home, interacting with them, seeing their...
Take West Bank on the left.
And they're already used to this responsive technology. The giving away our data piece is disconcerting. But there's another piece of our shifting relationship with technology, which is why I dragged Julian to New Jersey to one of the smartest homes I know. And no, I'm not talking about IQ. What does your little brother look like?
A little guy.
So, what would you say? What does Alexa look like?
A robot.
Robot?
Yes.
But where does she live?
In space.
Really? So every time you talk to Alexa, you're talking to space? Despite having an Alexa who lives in space, my friend and her husband live in the suburbs with their sons, who are almost 2 and 5. When they recently moved to New Jersey to fit their expanding family, they did not scrimp on smart home devices.
Yeah, we've got 2 little kids. We both work. It doesn't bother me that they know our habits to make it easier for
us, like, to get stuff done. Like,
Continue on current road for about 23 kilometers.
My friends, devices like the Amazon Alexa, Google Home, and their myriad counterparts are genuinely helpful, which is probably why over 118 million American households have a smart speaker. That's half of the US. And when you've got something so involved in your home life that it helps with diapers and groceries, it's bound to affect some other areas as well. Your dad said there are three women in the house.
Good does Google. Alexa.
Who's the third woman in the house?
Siri.
What about Mom? And even bedtime is different.
Hey Google, tell me a story.
It was a sunny day, and Mr. Porter was busy farming up.
he'll have Google read him a story when he's in bed and we don't want to read any more books.
Do you ever hear Google go off when you guys close the door?
Yeah.
To be clear, Google Home has not replaced real-life bedtime stories, but it has enabled my friend's kid to get more out of bedtime. He can keep asking for stories long after his parents need to stop reading. But focusing on the privacy component of these devices doesn't capture the full picture. Not only can the rhythms of family life change in response to a digital assistant, but so can kids' expectations. And that's true for all of us, even those of us already past early childhood development. We should think about how we're affected, long-term, by our expectation of seamless delivery.
You got a good rapport with those kids, Kara.
Thanks.
Neither of us have our own kids, but our editor Mangesh does. I was curious for his take on Alexa joining the family.
So I'd gone out to this wedding a couple years ago in Seattle, and it was in this fancy hotel, and there was an Alexa there in the room. And Lizzie and I went out for dinner or something, and we left the kids with a sitter. And the kids were mesmerized because they'd never encountered one of these devices before, so they were watching the babysitter interact with it, calling up music and whatever else, but then she also ordered food. So they were just floored by this. Then the next week we were back at home and I was watching my 4-year-old just like stomping around the house, and she started barking, "Alexa, pizza!" And it was just so confusing. She immediately knew that there was this thing you could just bark at it and get food, and she wanted results. But I have a conflicted feeling about all of this because I'd grown up in the States, very middle class, and every couple of years we go to India and visit my relatives who are a little wealthier. And we went to a party once with one of my cousins, and I saw this kid who was super wealthy, and he was yelling at his chauffeur, he was yelling at his mom, he was barking at the maid that they had, and it was just so gross. And when you see this sort of entitlement in front of you and expressed in this way, you don't want your kids growing up with that, right? And you want everyone to be treated as humans, and so for my daughter to be stomping around barking what she wanted, I don't want that to be her way of speech.
This kind of reminds me of the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers, except the Mangesh version, which is that, he went out to dinner with his wife, he comes back, his daughter is like, "Alexa, pizza!" And he's like, "What has Alexa done with my child?" She was like this sweet little girl, and now she's like a child that's aware of an Alexa.
Based on one encounter.
Right. I feel like if an alien came down from space and came into my apartment and saw me cooking dinner and then saw me go, "Alexa, turn on Paul Simon radio," the alien would be like, "Is she yelling at a woman who's going to go turn on the music?" I think right now we are all, Mangesh's daughter included, participating in this life-altering moment of self-delusion where we're sort of collectively accepting smart devices in our homes.
Well, we're not just accepting them, we're treating them as human.
Right, and I think this is the slippery-ish slope of using voice assistants more and more. We're speaking to voice-activated devices as though they're our family members, and there have got to be some long-term implications, both emotional and psychological, of blurring the line.
I agree, and we're going to hear more from Jared about that after the break. But we'll also speak to Poppy Crumb again, who believes that we've barely scratched the surface of how these devices can change how we live for the better.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Handler, and I'm launching a brand new podcast with iHeartRadio called Life Will Be the Death of Me. And I'm going to talk to all these different people. My BFF, Mary McCormick. That's what we should call my book tour, the Apology Tour. Great I'm sorry, everyone.
That's what this whole podcast should be called.
It should be called With the Orange because of the orange theme of the book. Aren't you glad I went to therapy? Life Will Be the Death of Me with Chelsea Handler. Listen and subscribe at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Children interacting with Alexa and Siri and other digital assistants is particularly striking because of the developmental implications. But interacting with machines who understand and respond to us,
we got the rubber mats for.
Questions about who and what gets to be treated as a person. Here's Jared.
I think the problem isn't the math or the computer science algorithms. I think the problem is our framework for thinking about them tends to be machine-centric instead of human-centric, and it tends to create dangers for the whole, and to create a lot of confusion, and a lot of it is because of this ideology of thinking of the machine as being alive.
And when we remember that our AI inventions aren't alive and simply reflect the inputs we give them,
look at the name of the street.
Harnessing their power for good.
Butt Road.
Before running Google China,
Didn't we talk about that before? We were looking for something like Road.
Butte was in the States.
Yeah.
To us to remove the factors that we don't think is appropriate to be considered in a decision from an AI. So if we want to eliminate sexual orientation or decision making, we can do that. Or if we want to eliminate it from a job application,
Is that it, Best Western? Best Western?
I think we're staying at a Holiday Inn.
Oh, okay.
These sort of things from their
About another 15 minutes.
But our brains are not separable in that way. AI engines actually are.
Being able to program our way out of our messier human biases is a big deal. But it's only made possible when we acknowledge that we control what an algorithm learns from. So, if we get it right, just how good can our relationship with technology get? Here's Poppy Crumb again.
I had a relative who was at the end of life, and I was with him for the last.
The house is on the cliff there.
He had
overlooking the valley.
I played it was on Alexa. She was using something like music. I was playing classical music.
Fuck you.
And all of a sudden he says, Alexa, play Al
Just
Green.
more anti-abortion bullshit.
And
Sorry, forced birth bullshit.
Interacted with her uncle through classical music. It was their thing. And here he was, at the end of his life, requesting R&B, an interest she didn't even know he had.
He wanted to hear Al Green and Sly and the Family Stone. I was like, nowhere near that. But the empowerment the device allowed at a very vulnerable and sensitive and important time, he smiled at the end of life. And it's the access to memories, the access to that internal richness. The things that might bring someone the most comfort are, we all don't know. Amazon's Alexa really opened up great opportunities for what our relationship with our technology can be.
Suddenly, Alexa isn't just something that dims your lights or tells you if it's raining as you rush out of the door, but actually a device that can change profoundly how you live and die. And Poppy noticed other ways an Alexa could have helped her uncle beyond playing Al Green.
I sat in a hospital room where I saw errors be made, I saw information be captured incorrectly, written on the board one way, shared to a different nurse another, shared to a different doctor another, and I saw all of these different things happen that with the right coordination of that same device that just allowed my uncle to hear Al Green on cue, it could have also been a huge part of improving not just his mental wellness, but his physical wellness. Because we're humans, we make errors, we make mistakes. We're not good at integrating information all the time, and our fallacy comes in places that technology can solve. I don't want to discount hospital staff, they work very hard, and everything, but people are sometimes, haven't had enough sleep, or they don't know someone else. People try to help at different points in time and end up sometimes introducing error and mistakes. Technology that's actually capturing or registering information for a user, there's obvious ways that it can help improve the interaction.
To Poppy, the true power of Alexa is not to respond to specific requests like a super assistant. It's to monitor us constantly, detecting patterns that we can't, more like a parent. And as of now, as far as we know, that's not what it does.
What Alexa does right now is not what would actually benefit us most from a healthcare perspective, right? Alexa is listening for a wake word, It's listening for a particular cue. It's not holding that longitudinal data to learn our behaviors and such right now. Not because of technological barrier, no, because of, I think, social and privacy barriers.
And those barriers tend to erode in response to new technology.
20 years ago, we would never have believed we would summon strangers from the internet and climb in their cars either. You know, so we evolve when the capacity, when the convenience is introduced, and the capability.
Clearly, technological innovation is only part of the equation. Becoming comfortable with new uses for those technologies opens up new worlds of possibilities in everything from how we listen to music to how we take care of each other. So let's say we accept this new bargain and open ourselves up to constant monitoring. What might the future look like?
Companies are looking at these things as ways of knowing not just if someone is taking their medicine for an aging population or someone who's healing, but to know if actually they're depressed. Are they under mental stress as well? And that becomes a great opportunity for autonomous living for elders, where the caretaker knows a lot more about how well the individual is healing and is doing at a particular point in time. There's this real irony in all of these situations that where through more tracking of my information comes freedom, and you gain autonomy through the amalgamated.
There is an age-old belief that the more privacy we have, the more freedom we have. But Poppy says it's time to rethink that relationship.
I think I do.
If you look at an elder who might otherwise be in a care home, but instead gains 10 years of autonomous living, because you now have more ubiquitous understanding of their mental and physical wellness. You have people having a lot more freedom with simply having a richer understanding of their internal experience and their personal data.
Crucially, if we're to feel comfortable trading our privacy for more agency, we need to be very sure we can trust the people who get to see our data. Because they're not just seeing us naked, they're seeing under the hood, the physiological tells that betray our private emotions.
For me, everything is about transparency. No one should be tracked when they don't know they're being tracked. How our technology interacts with us, whether we share information or not, our technology can't know. I think that's the real issue. We have to recognize that this sort of cognitive sovereignty or agency that we believe in is a thing of the past. It means we have to redefine what that future looks like.
It's a future we can all participate in building, and is one we're better off building as citizens with a collective voice and long-term objectives, rather than as lone consumers in search of the best deal, whatever the cost to us and society. As Poppy says, there's a difference between an Alexa waking up to respond to commands like play Al Green, and an Alexa that is always on, building a model of our behavior that knows us better than we know ourselves. But the crux of that difference is more cultural and political than technological. Are we willing to give up our poker faces and allow ourselves to be read by sensors and algorithms in return for longer, safer, happier lives, like Poppy's uncle? Or, knowing the history of governments who have monitored and categorized citizens, should we be doing everything we can to hit pause? Will our technology become a safety net or a spider's web? Next episode, we travel to Facebook's headquarters and investigate some of the more dangerous corners of the internet. And knowing that AI can both learn about us and imitate us, we take a hard look at deep fakes and examine a world where it's increasingly difficult to tell truth from fiction. I'm Oz Voloshin. See you next time. Sleepwalkers is a production of iHeartRadio and Unusual Productions. For the latest AI news, live interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, find us on Instagram at Sleepwalkers Podcast or at sleepwalkerspodcast.com.
Really?
Special thanks to Brian Nicole. We had a conversation with Brian that made this episode possible. And Brian is the host of a fascinating podcast called Future of Sex that's all about using technology to make our lives better. Sleepwalkers is hosted by me, Oz Voloshin.
And co-hosted by me, Carol Price.
We're produced by Julian Weller, with help from Jacopo Penzo and Taylor Chicoine. Mixing by Peter McNeil and Julian Weller. Our story editor is Matthew Riddle. Recording assistance this episode from Topher Ralph and Phil Bodger. Sleepwalkers is executive produced by me, Oz Voloshin, and Mangesh Hattikular. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
Alexa, pizza!
This month, Dell is thanking small businesses with up to 45% off select computers with Intel Core processors. Call 877-BUY-DELL to speak with a small business technology advisor today. That's 877-BUY-DELL for tech, advice, and one-on-one partnership.
For my part, this is Reply All. I'm PJ Vogt.
And I'm Alex Goldman. Welcome once again to Yes, Yes, No, the segment on the show where our boss, Alex Bloomberg, comes to us with something he doesn't understand from the internet, and we do our best to explain it to him. Alex Bloomberg.
Question mark?
Welcome. What do you want?
Welcome to the show?
Would you like to be welcomed?
Why do I do this? People are bad at knowing what's going to bring them pleasure and what's going to bring them pain. I think that's what it is.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
Shall I just dive in?
Yeah.
Dive in. It's a tweet from her handle is LXDX. Oh man, nothing about this tweet makes sense.
Yes.
LXDX at wokest bloke. Here's the tweet. Showering his classes now. People mad at Aperol. Uber strike. Wicked life. Gamer blocked his elf wife. We didn't start them. 9,000 retweets. 40,000 likes.
So, Alex Bloomberg, do you understand this tweet?
No.
Any of it?
I understand the form that it is taking. It is that Delation Joel song, We Didn't Start the Fire.
Okay.
So I understand that.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
None of it?
I knew there was an Uber strike.
Yeah. Alex Goldman.
I'm at about 30% on this one. I'm not very yes on this. I'm more no than yes.
PJ Vogt. Fully understand this tweet.
Wow.
Partly because so many people tweeted us saying that we had to do this for Yes, Yes, Now. I was like, I should Google some things.
That is like a characteristic difference between the two of us, I think. Because people kept tweeting it at me. And I was like, you know what? Out of defiance, I'm not going to learn about this.
You have oppositional authority disorder.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. Oh.
It sounds like a thing. So we're at yes, no, yes, kind of now.
Yeah, I know about the gamer and stuff.
You say that with such disgust. Like everybody knows about that.
All right.
Okay. So like maybe the first thing you have to know is like this is the category of tweet that we run into sometimes on Yes, Yes, No, where it's just sort of like an omnibus bill of memes.
Right.
Like none of these things are related to each other. They are all just themselves things.
So we're gonna go on a meme tour.
Yes, we're gonna go on a meme tour, and it's actually a meme tour of a series of fights that all happened on the internet on one week a few weeks ago. Some high stakes important fights, mostly small ridiculous petty fights.
Right.
Okay, so showering is classes now. I have to say I find this one pretty enjoyable. So there's this certain debates on the internet. There's certain questions you can ask at any time that just strike some deep chord in being a human being. And every single person, no matter what they're doing, like they're like an EMT at the scene of a horrific accident, and they look at their phone and they see that this debate is happening, they just like have to drop what they're doing and like run towards the argument. Like our hot dog sandwiches.
Wait, should you declaw your pets?
I didn't know that was one.
Oh my god. No one feels more strongly about anything than pets being declawed.
Okay, so one of these, which has been around for a few years, is, and it comes from Black Twitter. It's literally just a question. I feel like I already know the answer for both of you. Do you wash your legs when you shower?
Do you wash your legs when you shower?
Yeah, like when you take a shower in the morning, do you use soap specifically on your legs?
No.
Yes.
Shockingly the opposite of what I thought I was going to get out of that.
Wait, people should wash their legs with soap?
Yeah.
See, this is a thing about me that I think is genuinely pretty cool. I present as like a filthy, terrible monster.
If you end the sentence right there, I totally agree with you.
But I'm actually pretty clean underneath
my
these.
thighs are clean.
I'm actually pretty clean under these stained clothes.
So I feel like you guys can enact this right now, probably. Alex Bloomberg, why do you feel like you don't have to wash your legs like the Alex Goldmans of the world?
Well,
I already know the answer to this. It's
I
because
don't
the
know.
soap rolls down your body, thereby washing your legs by dint of rinsing, right?
That's what I thought you were gonna say.
No, just because like soap, like you don't like soap. There's nothing. I don't know. The water's enough. Like it's not like I don't know. What are you rolling around in on your legs? Like there's nothing. Like I wash my legs if there's dirt on my legs. But normally you're just like walking along. You've got clothes on. Your legs don't get dirty.
They get sweaty.
Yeah. So then like use the fresh water rinses.
You don't want your legs to be fragrant.
Fragrant? Is that how you really feel?
I just feel like if I'm going to use soap on my body, I'm using it on my entire body. Also, you use a washcloth to exfoliate.
Well, by the way,
your skincare regimen is really not what I would have expected.
But if it was so important, then people would have been like, "Hey, dude, your legs are smelly." Like somebody would have like somebody would have pointed it out to me in the 52 years I've been on the planet.
I mean, the other thing that I think encourages me to wash my legs is the one great joy in my life is sitting in the shower.
Sitting in the shower? Okay,
Sitting
we're back
in
to
the shower?
This is back to normal Alex Coleman territory.
Sitting in the shower is the best thing in the world.
You just sit down in the shower?
Yeah, crisscross applesauce. Put on a podcast. Clean the hell out of my legs.
One of my little interior goals for this was to not have a vivid mental image, and I really have it now. So just like
This is like, of all the years that we've been doing Yes Yes No's and like exploring the most horrific corners of the internet and the images that arise, and like that is like really one of the most. I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can't unknow it.
I know.
Just to make sure we fully know it, though. You get in the shower Monday morning,
every morning.
Turn on probably local news radio or a podcast.
I put on a podcast.
Turn on the water. You wait for it to heat up. You take your clothes off. Water's a good temperature. You get in.
Close the door. Then I sit down.
You're making your legs dirtier by sitting on a mildewy shower floor.
Listen, you animal. My floor's not mildewy. I regularly clean it with bleach. It's fine.
I guarantee you, if people were to swap our legs coming out of showers, your legs would be dirtier.
Wait, so just to continue with this, you're sitting on the floor, crisscross applesauce, and then you put soap on yourself while you're sitting down?
Yeah.
Do you stand up at any point?
When I'm done.
Did you grow up in like a different kind of household? Like, what was the day where a young Alex Coleman was standing in the shower and was like, this is a waste of muscle mass?
You know what it was? It was when I was in high school. And I was like, I'm really tired. I bet I can catch a few winks if I sit down and lean forward. So I did, and I fell asleep for a few minutes.
Oh, God.
And there's not even like a moment where you just stand up and have a normal shower for a second before you get out.
No.
What that tells me is you have a dirty butt.
Wow.
I don't do it in stranger showers.
Wait, why?
I don't know how often they clean their showers. That's gross.
Hotel showers?
Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
I don't know who's using it.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
their cleanliness level.
Wow.
So as you guys can see, it's a question that really teaches you a lot about people that you thought you knew.
I feel like we got really derailed.
Wow.
No, I think that was exactly where we were supposed to go.
Wow.
Okay.
So like it feels like I'm sort of just made this up. It feels like every 6 months, this just comes up. Like someone will just ask the question, and then thousands of people will chime in and start like yelling at each other because they'll be like, "Oh, men don't wash their legs," or like whatever. Like people really dig in on it. Usually it's like 80% of people say they do, 20% say they don't. This is what I've noticed.
Who's the weirdo now, Alex?
You're definitely the weirdo now.
Yeah, I know. All right, so wait, so this comes out on the internet all the time.
Yeah.
Leg washers versus like not washers.
Yeah, historically it's been a thing that exists on Black Twitter, but then this just like random guy, Connor Arpwell, he tweeted a poll that was this poll is like, do you wash your legs in the shower? And for some reason this just like made it explode in a way that I think it hasn't before. This one he literally just asked, do you watch your legs when you take a shower? 80% yes, 20% no. 2,500 retweets. This was early May. And then a week after this, this woman, she's an internet writer. Her name's Sophie Weiner. She writes for Splinter. She retweeted the poll, and the first thing she said in her thread was, "Gotta stand up for the dirtbag women out there yet again." And she goes on to basically say, she's like, "I don't use soap on my whole body when I shower. I don't think I'm gross. I pretty much just wash my face and my armpits with soap, and I shower once or twice a week. LOL. I think it's fine." Which I think people already started to kind of react against. But then she said that she wanted to acknowledge that as middle-class cis white women, she has a lot of privilege, not worry about stuff like body hair. And then she said that if people thought she was stinky in real life, she's open to feedback, but she thought that the obsession with cleanliness was weird classist bullshit, which everyone just lost their minds over.
Does she explain her argument?
Not well. Basically, it sounds like what she's saying is that cleanliness is something that belongs to rich people, and so shaming people for not being clean is unfair and is class warfare. And a lot of people chimed in and they were like, dude, as a person who grew up really poor, please don't argue for my right to be stinky. You are not helping me. You are not on my side.
The argument that cleanliness is classist is a classist argument.
The argument she's accidentally kind of making is that you can't get mad at people who stink because they stink because they're poor.
Yes.
And then she was sort of she realized she stepped in and she was like, I get it. I'm the asshole on the internet this week. I'm sorry. Please stop yelling at me, whatever. But it was too late. It was thousands of people. And there's also, I think the other thing about it is just there's so many times on the internet, particularly 2019, where your last acceptable prejudices get taken away from you. You're I don't like this thing. And somebody's well, there's a intersectional reason why your dislike of that is not cool. But she had overstepped that. I think people were excited to be no. We don't like smelling body odor. That's fine. Right. You are wrong.
She privilege checked too far.
Yes.
Something.
She aimed the wokeness gun wrong and it exploded and hit her. Right. But the weird thing is actually in the middle of this tweet thread, she tweeted a link to this article, which I'm very sure nobody read. She tweeted this link to an article that was just talking about how a lot of what we think of as hygiene has been constructed by companies to convince us to buy stuff cologne and perfume and Listerine telling people that halitosis is a thing. I think that is valid.
Huh. All right.
So that's showering as classes now.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, what's the next one?
Let's see. People mad at Aperol.
What is Aperol?
You guys know what Aperol is?
No.
It's a bitter, I think you call it an aperitif. It's like Campari.
It's like a, what are those things called? Is it called a digestif? No, it's not a digestif.
Oh boy. I can hear us getting yelled at by somebody who knows.
We're gonna get in trouble with Cocktail Twitter.
Yeah, Cocktail Twitter is not a Twitter that I would like to engage with. Okay, so the big fight about Aperol is ridiculous for a lot of reasons. One is just I feel most people haven't heard of Aperol. I certainly hadn't. But then what happened was a couple of years ago, the company that makes it decided to do this huge marketing push. Let me show you an ad from that marketing push.
So it's a beach, and there's a band playing Happy Together by the Turtles.
They also all look like what old person would think cool young people look like. They all look like they got kicked out of Coachella for not being cool enough.
I tried to get a room there, but they had none.
Yeah.
And they're all running toward each other.
So the ad's cheesy, but the other thing was I think they just got bartenders to push Aperol really hard, which that part worked. And so last summer, every single intimidating literary person who I was scared of was suddenly just drinking this obscure European drink. And the big fight that this tweet is about is actually not everybody versus Aperol. It's Aperol versus the New York Times. And the reason is that a few years ago, the New York Times started doing this thing, which they claim is not on purpose, and to me seems extremely and obviously on purpose, but you have to believe people when they say things, I guess, which is once a year-ish, they'll post, usually it's a recipe. So a few years ago,
the guacamole and peas.
Yeah, they were like, hey guys, we got a great new recipe for guacamole. You put peas in it.
Right. Everybody lost their mind.
Everybody lost their minds because it's a weird, and also they were just treating it as if it were normal.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it worked. It generated lots of traffic. People talked about it. And it was sort of a meme at the time. Obama tweeted about it. He was like, "I love the New York Times," but
I remember the pea in controversy. Yeah.
So then there was one after that. There was one where they were like, "We have a ramen recipe using American cheese." That also kind of got people that's right. Why are you ruining everything?
Why are you doing that?
I think there was a coleslaw one.
Yeah.
And sort of in that vein, they published this like polemic a few recently that was just like, all these people are drinking Aperol Spritzes, and Aperol Spritzes are garbage.
What a dumb thing.
They're like, drinking Aperol Spritz is like drinking a hot Capri Sun.
Route recalculating.
Basically, they were saying that, like,
in 200 meters, turn right onto Enterprise Way.
You know, slovenly morons who were drinking like juice packs and couldn't figure it out. Which is a weird piece because it's like the Venn diagram people even know what that drink is already pretty small. And then the amount of people who want to be told that this weird niche thing they like is the wrong thing and they suck is like even smaller.
Who wants to be told that anything that sucks?
People want to be told that something somebody else likes that they don't like anymore sucks. But I don't think there's anybody who's like, I've moved on to a better Spritz already.
Chicken.
Is this like a crossword where the thing in the first sentence is going to apply in some weird way to the second sentence? Because this is what's classist.
The machine was right then. Yeah. I spotted Holiday Inn.
Monocle dealer is the wrong monocle dealer.
And you see,
and
so
the group of people who started drinking Aperol Spritzes were just like, fuck you, the New York Times. Like, everyone was just...
So it's not this Holiday Inn, it's another one.
No, the Holiday Inn is tomorrow, and today is the...
Not in this one.
This is a bad take, and it's everybody gets
another one.
for a second.
So that's Aperol.
It's funny, eh?
Yes.
Uber strike.
Uber strike. Okay, so you know that there was an Uber strike.
That's why it was saying, eh?
Yes.
He's like, would it be under a different name? And I'm like,
dynamic that's going on pretty fast.
Rodney?
Basically, drivers who sign up for these ride-sharing companies, whether it's like Lyft, Uber, Juno, like whatever, like local ones or different cities, they're in this really weird position because the companies don't want to acknowledge them as employees, and because they're not employees, they don't have to like offer them health care or like give them minimum wage. Like they're all independent contractors.
Turn right onto Enterprise Way.
Constantly losing money because they're like venture capital backed, so they don't have to be profitable.
This is right at the end.
And so the companies just want to acquire as many customers and drive everybody out of business. So they're trying to lower prices for customers, and the way they do that is to like lower wages for drivers all the time. So the drivers decided this multi-city strike for a few hours in New York, LA, like all these major cities. There's like a lot of our drivers are not going to drive. This is a driver talking at a press conference at the New York strike.
I used to make $37 in 2014.
He's talking about like how, for his experience, which is a lot of people.
Continue on current road for about 900 meters.
And then once he was hooked in, they just started paying him less and less money. He actually has, I think, graphs of how his wages have gone down.
Anybody wants a copy? I'll give you the copy. For 10.
In 700 meters, turn right onto Highway 97 South.
That you have to buy the car, you have to buy the insurance, you have to maintain the car, then you have to buy the gasoline. And I still have to take out the tolls out of $9.80.
So people are really mad.
Right.
And part of the reason that they're also so mad, it's like both they had a hard job where the wages have been progressively going down.
In 300 meters, turn right onto Highway 97 South.
And also in the IPO, you have to say the obstacles your company is facing. And Uber really straightforwardly said, we know our drivers are pretty dissatisfied. One of the ways we're going to make more money is to
turn right onto Highway 97 South.
Forecasting, which was public. Like the drivers were in that. It just feels very simple.
South or northern.
Crazy. And I remember when Uber first came out, because I think I was still doing Planet Money around that time, or I'd just come off of it, so I was like, interesting new business, and how is this working for the people who were driving the cars, and I would ask people.
The destination is on your right.
My experience, like every Uber I got in back around that time, was like, it's great.
You have arrived at your destination. Your route guidance is finished.
This is weird. It doesn't normally work this way.
No.
But that seems pretty great, but I wonder if it's going to keep on going that way, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's saying it. Like, the difference between $37 an hour and 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Uber strike. Depressing. Okay, what's next?
Wicked Life.
Okay, so this was the one where when people started tweeting at us about this tweet, I had no idea what Wicked Life was. I asked producer Anna Foley. She didn't know either. And so we just spent the better part of the day just trying to figure out what this was. Anna figured it out. So Wiccan is a Marvel superhero. And he sort of figures into this fight that's taking place about Marvel superheroes. The best way to explain it, have you guys seen the new Avengers movie, Avengers Endgame?
Yes. No.
Okay, there was one scene in the thing that flew by my head, but that was very important to people on the internet, which I'm going to show you. I got a bootleg this one I taped off like a... It's like, I think it's from maybe Sri Lanka, like some theater, not, it's like has like subtitles, it's really great.
I know, I'm just like kind of cruising around looking to see if there's a charger.
I saw the movie too. While you were sitting in the shower.
I'll see when he's
How am I supposed to watch TV?
There's a ton around here.
You put an iPad in a large Ziploc bag. I've thought about this. Sometimes you're binging.
Why are you bootlegging it? It's been out. Like, you only get the bootleg if it hasn't been out yet.
Sometimes, no, you get the bootleg if it's not out at home yet.
But you saw it in the movie theater and then you're like, I want to watch this again, but shaky and with people laughing for it.
Yeah.
So literally, like, what were you going back for?
There were a couple of things that I wanted to see again.
Like what?
Was he thinking you feelings that you wanted to have again? No, not scenes that gave me feelings that I wanted to have again. I had some butthole questions that I had to go back and look at.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, he stopped.
We are going to be don't you worry.
She wants up probably.
Oh yeah.
I want to get some antihistamines down here.
Nothing's too far in this town, so.
Hey?
I said nothing can really be too far in this town.
You're gonna punch it in? What number is it?
No, I don't even know where it is. I just know it's up the street here somewhere.
We are. I mean, that's what we're going there. You want me to eat your feet? Your knee? No. Yeah. No point of changing the diapers.
What's that?
No point of changing the diapers.
No.
So what are we looking for? What's it called again?
Asian buffet or something like that.
What?
Asian buffet. They said you can't miss it. Something like that.
It's on this side.
Sounds like it. It said by a Wendy's, so if you see a Wendy's, be on the lookout.
You want to take them off so I can eat your shoes?
You're looking that side, I'm looking this side. Right? I don't remember seeing any Wendy's when we come up here.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is it on this side?
I don't remember where I saw it, but I saw it. And also, if you see something else, if either one of you sees something that looks good, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Amen. This far down, truly.
$88,000 buffet? That's not it,
Where
though.
does it say that?
From
Is
there.
that it?
I don't know.
It's a big flag.
It is.
Wendy's is coming up for. Wendy's coming up.
Yeah, no, I heard you. Sorry, I'm looking for it. I do not see it.
There is the buffet.
Asian pear buffet. Oh, okay.
I was looking at strip mall and it's the last one on
the Asian is Chinese.
Chinese is Asian, yeah. Nah.
What are you doing though?
So it doesn't have very many reviews, but I'll look it up.
Well, there's a lot of cars outside.
Well, there's a strip mall.
No, okay, it's good. I just want to see now if there's a plug. How far?
You know what I said back?
Yeah, I heard you.
I'm looking.
All right, get out and go in, and I'll
let this. You see something up there? What's that thing sticking out from the wall?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a newspaper thing. Okay, we'll get out.
I went to a picture. They actually had a warning in the lid. There's a lip in the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And when you squeeze it, it's like, ow, ow, ow. It just looks like that. Getting your shoes on.
was looking for.
That's the only English kid. Yeah.
Oh, here she blows. Oh, I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
As you were looking backwards.
It wasn't too bad at all. We were there. What time is it? Just almost an hour. We ate, had a 3-course meal, and left. Oh. He's the bus driver. Remember I told you he was having meals.
Is that him?
Yeah. And it's all these people up there. You see, when he was going. And then he was just deciding, no, I'm just going to pace myself for a bit. You know what I mean? Oh, it was funny.
Yeah.
That would be fun too, to go on a bus ride.
Absolutely.
You know, Susan was saying we should go on a bus ride to London. You know, pay for everything.
Like
in the
England?
hotels. Hey?
England or Ontario?
Yeah. Isn't it fun? You stop at all the neat places. You have a laugh, you know. You play bingo on the coach. Bring your own drinks, of course. There's an Asian buffet there too, no, in here, and more of a yuppie one. All the hotels in this place, right?
Don't know, I was wondering the same thing myself.
Hundreds of them. And you couldn't find the one we wanted. Got this one.
Funk and junk.
Oh, nice. Funk and junk. Fucking junk. If you say it quick, it says fucking junk. It's the whole point.
Oh, is it your football skates?
Holy shit.
What?
Well, that fucking crosswalk sign, there's no missing that.
Like that.
Are they going to need diapers
Look at them crosswalk signs in Canada and Winnipeg are terrible. They're like you can't see.
Yeah, and they don't even blink, nothing, yeah.
Don't let me forget to get diapers to everybody.
She knows she's going this.
Like you can't reach it right now? Should be able to, I think, no?
Well, what, love?
Okay.
Hey? Walmart pharmacy there, if you want something there.
I do not. Yeah. Who attack?
Yeah.
Still a bit of a ways yet, isn't it?
No, it's right here.
Is it?
Yeah.
This one or the next one?
Next one.
www.fuckjunk.ca.
Is the attack that vicious?
Yeah, it's like needles.
Like, do we need to go to Tim Hortons or?
It was like when I was at the freaking Borders.
Not right now.
Right?
I can make water. They've got water downstairs too.
What? Is this the lights or what? Okay.
Is that the people trailer picking up scrap or something, is it? Or are they homeless people?
I don't know.
Oh.
I've been here as long as you, Mom. Go in, when we get there, go straight to the back and turn left towards the pool and you'll see there's a bathroom, okay?
Is that where you want to go?
No, tell her.
Need a card?
No.
Oh my god.
I know, I'm the same. I'm just ready to explode.
Jay sounds like she's going into labor.
I know she's holding it because if he lets off, that's it.
Yeah, I pushed him this week and I was so scared I was acting there.
I did that one time. It was terrible. Like that it went. Shirley said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Oh,
fuck."
Hurry up, you'll be all right though. Hold it in. Go on, get out.
Oh, is this right beside the pool?
Yeah. Go in straight to the back, turn left, and you'll see the bathroom. Sit down, Mom.
And I'm the same. I'm holding in too. It's okay, Abby. Abby. Oh no, I can't get in. Yeah.
Alright.
Holy Toledo. Holy Toledo. Ooh. Holy moly. Yeah. There you are. Yeah, Dad'll get you now. Dad'll come and get you once he plugs the card in. I've got your shoes. Dad'll get you.